Your text messages go through, you send a few, the replies come back, everything looks normal. Then you try to make a voice or video call on Telegram in Dubai and it just sits there and never connects. That is not a bug and it is not your phone. It is policy enforced at the network level and it has been in place for years. In this video, I will show you exactly what the UAE blocks, why your VPN keeps dying, and the setup that actually keeps Telegram running. I run managed Telegram hosting on dedicated hardware in Singapore. Real phones, real Singapore SIMs, real local mobile IPs. So I watch what happens to accounts inside heavily filtered countries every single day, and the UAE is one of the most misunderstood of them. People think Telegram is fully blocked there. It is not. The nuance matters because if you get it wrong, you waste months fighting the wrong layer of the problem. This video is for anyone in Dubai, Abu Dhabi or Sharjah who needs Telegram to actually work, including calls. Here is the plan. First, what the UAE actually blocks and what it leaves alone, because the answer surprises most people. Then why almost every consumer VPN dies there within days. And finally, the Singapore cloud phone setup that puts your whole session outside the enforcement perimeter, plus how to keep the account safe once it is there. Start with the authority. The Telecommunications and Digital Government Regulatory Authority, the TDRA, governs telecoms in the UAE. It replaced the older TRA branding back in 2021, but the policy itself did not change. The TDRA's position on voice over IP has not moved since roughly 2017. Voice and video calls over unlicensed third-party apps are simply prohibited. The only licensed alternatives are two apps called Botim and SeeMe, both operated by entities connected to the country's two telecom operators, and that is the key to why enforcement is so clean. There are only two licensed operators in the whole country, which used to be Etisalat, and Du. Every SIM sold in the UAE routes through one of those two networks. There is no third path, no independent carrier, no way for data traffic to slip past the regulator. So when the TDRA hands down a filtering mandate, it lands uniformly across the entire country's mobile and fixed internet at once. Telegram's calling features are not on the approved list, and both ISPs are required to enforce that at the network layer. Now here is the part people miss. The block is not a clean wall. Telegram text messaging in the UAE works most of the time. Group chats, channels, bots, file transfer, all of it usually goes through fine. Network measurement data from OONI, which monitors censorship around the world, shows a pattern of intermittent interference rather than a permanent block on the text side. Probe failures against the web interface, periodic disruption of connections to the main data centers, then it eases off again. The blocks are never announced. They intensify during politically sensitive periods and ease afterward, which is exactly why the experience feels inconsistent instead of like a clean cutoff. One week everything is fine, the next week your channel is sluggish and half your media will not load. The TDRA has no obligation to tell you what is switched on or off. The one consistent restriction, the one that has held since 2017, is the voice and video call ban. Text is intermittent, calls are blocked by design. So most people in the UAE reach for a VPN. It works for a few hours, maybe a couple of days, and then it stops. This is not bad luck. Both and Du deploy commercial deep packet inspection gear that fingerprints VPN protocols by their traffic characteristics, not just by which IP you are talking to. The way the protocol behaves on the wire is the giveaway, and that does not change just because you switch servers. OpenVPN over UDP is basically self-identifying. The handshake timing, the packet sizes, the connection setup sequence have all been documented for years, and every serious censorship system keeps signatures for them. WireGuard is a little harder to spot by packet shape alone, but it uses predictable UDP ports and it does not pad its traffic, so under sustained flow analysis, it gets fingerprinted too. The DPI does not need to break your encryption, it just needs to recognize the shape of the tunnel. Then there is the shared IP pool problem on top of that. Freedom House's reporting on the UAE notes that IP-based blocking of commercial VPN infrastructure is routine and systematic there. Consumer VPN services all cycle through the same data center address ranges: DigitalOcean, AWS, Hetzner, Vultus. Once enough traffic gets observed and correlated from a given range, that whole range goes on the block list. Your VPN worked in 2023 because those IPs were still clean. They are not clean anymore. The cataloging has been methodical over years, and there is a third layer called SNI inspection. During a TLS handshake, most clients still send the destination domain in plaintext as part of something called the server name indication. Even with newer TLS versions that can hide it, a lot of consumer apps still leak the domain in the clear because the software has not caught up with what the protocol allows. Telegram's own obfuscation helps here, but how well it helps depends entirely on how recently the TDRA updated its signatures, and those updates come faster than most users expect. So a real step up is a mobile SOCKS 5 proxy sitting behind an actual mobile IP in a neutral country. A real carrier IP moves through DPI cleanly because it is not in any VPN range, it carries carrier-grade NAT characteristics, and it just looks like ordinary outbound traffic from a foreign mobile network. If someone hands you an endpoint, verify it before you trust it. Here is the check I use. The SOCKS 5H scheme tells curl to resolve DNS through the proxy instead of your local network, which matters. If the endpoint is a genuine Singapore mobile IP, the response will show a Singapore carrier. Singtel is AS 7473, M1 is AS 8529, StarHub is AS 9506. If instead you see AWS or Hetzner or some other data center network in that output, you have a data center IP dressed up with marketing and none of the survival properties apply to it. The catch with the proxy route is sourcing one that is genuinely dedicated rather than a rotating residential pool. Rotating addresses fragment the session history that makes a mobile IP look trustworthy to Telegram in the first place. The option with the highest survival rate solves this at a different layer entirely. Instead of routing your Dubai phone session through a proxy, you run Telegram on a physical Android device in Singapore, on a real Singapore SIM, and you access it remotely through a browser. From every network's point of view, your Telegram session never originates in the UAE at all. It originates from a Singapore mobile carrier range. The TDRA's filtering never touches it because there is no Telegram traffic on your local link to filter. And here is why Singapore specifically for a UAE user. This is jurisdictional, not just technical. Singapore is one of the UAE's most significant trade and investment partners in Asia. The two countries have a bilateral investment treaty, a comprehensive economic partnership agreement signed in 2022, and deep cross-exposure in financial services and real estate. Blocking Singapore carrier ranges wholesale would create friction at the diplomatic and commercial level long before it produced any regulatory upside. That is not an eternal guarantee, but it is a structural disincentive that a random server in Frankfurt simply does not have. Access Now's Keep It On coalition, which documents internet blocking events globally, has not recorded UAE action against Singapore mobile carrier networks. The commercial calculus just does not support it. In practice, a Singapore SIM carrying your session looks to every device in the UAE traffic path like a foreign roaming event from a friendly country. A Dubai business person visiting Singapore for a week generates the exact same signature. Sensors do not block what they cannot justify blocking. Now, do not let me pretend there is no latency, because there is. Singapore to Dubai on a direct submarine cable runs around 130 to 150 milliseconds round trip. Accessing the cloud phone through the browser session adds roughly another 60 to 90 milliseconds on top of your local connection, because that controlled traffic travels all the way to Singapore and back. For reading messages and typing replies, that is completely invisible. Telegram is asynchronous and the polling intervals absorb it. For real-time voice, you will notice it. Telegram's audio codec tolerates a useful range of delay before quality really falls off. So expect maybe 60 to 120 milliseconds of added one-way latency compared with a call placed directly from Singapore. For most conversations, that is workable, and a slightly laggy call that actually connects is a far better outcome than a call that never connects at all, which is your only other option from inside the UAE. So the trade is real, but it is the right trade. The onboarding is what people care about most, so let me be precise about it. There is no proxy to configure. You go through concierge onboarding and you get a link to a browser-based session. That session is a live Android device in our Singapore farm connected to a real Singapore SIM. You log into Telegram with your own phone number. We are not in the loop on the one-time code and we have no access to it. From there, the device stays online around the clock, keeping your session alive whether your local internet in Dubai is working or not. This is a bring your own number model, and that matters more than it sounds. Your account history, your contacts, your groups, your chat history all come with you. You are not starting fresh on some foreign number. Telegram's risk signals are partly historical. An account with years of organic activity and gradual contact growth looks completely different from a brand new number that immediately joins 50 channels. Keeping your existing number if it has been active and normal for over a year is the safe move. Switching numbers resets that history profile and can trigger new account friction. One thing people constantly get confused about, your phone number's country code is a completely separate question from your IP address. A +971 UAE number logging in from a Singapore IP is not a problem from Telegram's side. The platform does not penalize you for connecting from a country that differs from your number's origin. What it actually watches is behavior. New device logins, unusual session patterns, rapid group joins, mass outbound messaging. Geography of the IP versus the number is not on that list. So harden the account properly once it is on Singapore hardware. Two-step verification is non-negotiable if the account matters to you. Set it before you move the session anywhere, because if your session link is ever compromised, two-step verification is the only layer left protecting you. Pair it with a recovery email on a provider that is not subject to UAE data sharing obligations, and turn contact sync off. Syncing your full UAE contacts list maps your entire social graph to the platform servers, and that data persists longer than most people assume. If there is any sensitivity to your use case, manage contacts manually. On payment, card payments from UAE-issued cards have processed without issue across our concierge pilot. If you would rather not have a Singapore technology subscription showing up on your statement, crypto works too: Bitcoin, Ethereum, or USDT. We are a Singapore-registered entity, and we are still in the concierge pilot phase, so onboarding happens in batches with a short turnaround from sign-up to an active session. There is no full self-serve sign-up yet, but the waitlist is open. So if you are in Dubai or Abu Dhabi and you have basically given up on Telegram voice calls, this is exactly the case Telegram Vault is built for. Manage Telegram hosting on real Singapore hardware, a real Singapore mobile IP, your own number kept intact, and voice and video calls that actually complete because the traffic originates in Singapore where Telegram is fully legal. Pricing starts at $99 a month for one account and scales to $899 a month for 15 accounts, card or crypto, whichever you prefer. It is a managed service, so you are not maintaining proxies or chasing dead VPNs every week. The device stays online, your session stays alive, and your local internet quality stops being the thing your Telegram depends on. Join the waitlist at telegramvault.org and use the code TGYT for a discount on your first month. That link is in the description and it points to the homepage, so you can start there. If this cleared things up, subscribe, because I am working through how Telegram actually behaves country by country and the fixes that hold up in each one. The next video covers Saudi Arabia, where the rules look similar on the surface, but the enforcement and the workaround are not quite the same. Different country, same Singapore answer. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.